might notice that our set got a snazzy redo, and we'll tell you more about that later. But first today, the Olympics. Alpine skiing events were postponed in Pyeongchang over the weekend after Saturday's men's downhill and Sunday's women's giant slalom were both delayed due to wind. But Austrian Marcel Hirscher took home gold in the men's combined event earlier today. Scott Macartney from Redmond knows exactly how it feels to go for the gold. He competed in the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City and the 2006 Games in Torino, Italy. Now he continues to ski, and he also heads up the International Ski Federation's junior program with the Crystal Mountain Alpine Club. Please welcome Olympian Scott Macartney. Hi there. How are you doing? It's good to meet you.
Thank you.
Are you enjoying the Olympics so far?
You know, it's been so much fun to just watch. I was watching until 11:30 last night.
I was so proud of our snowboarders. What did you think?
It was pretty incredible. So I watched the women's slopestyle, and they had some gusting winds.
They did.
And they had really variable conditions. And maybe half of the girls that were competing didn't even make the full jump. They hit the knuckle and
it was
blew
more
out.
than half, I believe I read.
So
Sorry,
really challenging, and to have that during the Olympics is, it's a little bit of a bummer, but you have that opportunity to, set yourself up for success and try to, achieve something in variable conditions.
And an American won the gold there, and we're just glad nobody was hurt. But Red Garrett, oversleeping, losing his jacket, swoops in at the last minute for the gold, and Chloe Kim, is tweeting about breakfast sandwiches and things like that during the competition, and has the gold won after the first run, but lands 2 1080s in her third run just because she can. So if they aren't the chillest 17-year-old gold medal winners we've ever had, I don't know who would be. How did you get into skiing to begin with?
Both my parents were really into it themselves. So they were volunteer ski patrollers at Crystal Mountain. And so I was up every weekend. I started skiing when I was 2.5.
Which is important, right? Before falling means much distance.
Well, you're already so low to the ground that when you fall, it's not that big a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. When did you know that you had a real shot at the Olympics?
I think it's kind of a progression. So when you're young, you just compete because it's a blast, and you go off jumps, you have fun, you go fast, and it's just so exciting. And then as you get older, you kind of in segments get a little bit more competitive in the region, and then a little bit more competitive in the division, and then the whole U.S., and you just start working your way up. When I was 19, I made the U.S. national team, and then made the Olympics in 2002. And, but it was really, really close. I mean, I needed to break through on the World Cup stage in order to qualify for the Olympics. They only take 4 athletes per event.
Wow.
And an overall team size of 12 to 13 men and 12 to 13 women. So it gets small really quick
when you get to that altitude. What was the experience like? What sticks in your mind most?
So I think in terms of the competition, I got to go first in Salt Lake City. So I was in the snow basin course, and actually one of my friends who is forerunning, so they have forerunners that go down and test the course to make sure it's all right. He crashed and went into the nets, and they had this hold. And so I was standing at the top, and they want to keep the races going for TV. But so they would just tell me, okay, you're on in 2 minutes. And I'd be ready to go, and then they're like, oh, not yet. And so they went through ready to go.
I apologize on behalf of television.
That wasn't really.
How long were you up there?
I was ready to go for about 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Thought I'd go in the next interval. And they were putting the netting back together. And then I went, and I was distracted. But, I came down first into this huge crowd of people at the bottom, and it was pretty amazing.
Representing your country,
yep.
On top of everything else. Well, let's talk about some of the events in the Olympics this year that have been delayed over the weekend from the weather. Why does that happen, and why is it so important that they not be run when things aren't safe?
Well, it's especially downhill. So the different events, there's downhill, which is the fastest, Super G, which is just slightly more turns, more technical, giant slalom, and slalom, which are more the technical events. But in downhill, we have some races where, like, I've gone 97 miles an hour
Good
before
Lord.
in a downhill.
So a big gust of wind.
If you have a big gust of wind and you go off a jump and you get blown off of balance, it's not safe. So you need really good conditions to run.
Right.
And there's a fine line between like being unfair, which they won't necessarily cancel a race for, and being unsafe, which they certainly will.
Okay. Skiers to watch for the women, Michaela Schifrin and Megan McJames. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, so they have their giant slalom race coming up. And
There they are.
And also
There's
slalom.
a position I'll never be in my entire life.
So Michaela is one of the best in the world. She is young, she's super precise, and quite frankly, amazing. Like, she's had 30-some World Cup victories. She's 22 years old.
Good grief.
And she's a favorite, which puts a lot of pressure on her to, I mean, she can only meet expectations, right? Like, everyone thinks she's going to win the gold. So she can only go out and say, oh, yeah, you should have won, and you did.
Well,
so
she needs to go out for a churro with Chloe Kim, and she'll calm right down. Okay, skiers to watch among the men. Ted Leggety, who's a name from the past, very interesting. Bryce Bennett and Jared Goldberg. Tell us about them.
So I watched Ted last night. He skied quite well to get 5th. He's coming back from injury.
And tell us about his history a little bit in case people don't know.
So Ted, I raced the Olympic combined with Ted as well when he won in 2006. There's a shot somewhere I'm holding him up on my shoulders in the finish line along with Steve Nyman. And he's had an incredible career, great GS skier. His slalom and downhill are not his strongest event, especially as he came back from injury. He kind of focused on his giant slalom so that he would kind of have the best chance in the Olympics. And he's been doing really well. He's gone from 5th he just had a podium in World Cup a couple weeks ago. So I think he'll do really well in the giant slalom.
He's defying age a bit, right?
Yeah, he's one of the more experienced on the national team.
He's a veteran skier.
Yeah.
Far be it from me to call anybody old at my age. So let's talk about the upcoming races to watch. What are you really focused on at this point? What do you want to see?
I'm excited, of course, for the men's and women's downhills because that was my event along with Super G. And I still know a lot of those guys, and have spent a lot of time with them, on the side of courses, inspecting and in hotel rooms and just traveling and all that. And so I'm excited to see that. The hill is really interesting. It's cool. There's a lot of air time. There's some really technical sections. It's not so steep though that you can absolutely out ski someone. You basically just have to ski perfectly.
Wow.
And
other than
make
that,
no
though,
mistakes.
no challenges whatsoever. It'll be fun to watch. Congratulations on your own ski career and all you're doing now. Do you still ski race at all?
I do. So I coach up at Crystal Mountain. Occasionally I'm a forerunner for some of the events, just kind of to test it out and have fun. And then one of the things I do is until a couple months ago, I ran a World Cup Dreams Foundation, and we raise money for athletes like Megan McJames. There's Jared Goldberg. There's 10 out of the 22 athletes that are on the Alpine team at the Olympics are not fully funded.
Wow.
And so we help raise money for them.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for stopping by and visiting with us. The only air I've ever caught skiing was by accident. We've linked more information about Scott's work with the Crystal Mountain Alpine Club on our homepage, and please stay tuned to King 5 for Olympics coverage immediately following New Day. After the break, our All About the Home show begins. We'll be right back.